We're live again. I want the logo to appear, to be honest. So let's see if it can. Today we have a really awesome interview with Philip Davis, and we're waiting for him to show up right now to the live video, so we can have a really interesting, bring them on camera. So we're gonna have a really interesting interview. Let me bring him on camera. And by the way, we're sorry for the inconvenience a few moments ago. We had a technical problem. It's working now, right, David, Philip?
I think, yes, looking good. Can you hear me?
Yeah, everything is looking fine. I can hear you perfectly, to be honest.
Magnifique.
Okay, awesome. So, magnifique, yes. Let's do it again then.
Okay.
How are you doing, by the way? Are you doing great? We gotta show the people that
I'm
we're
good, man.
doing awesome.
I'm good. I'm real
They
good.
want
Yeah,
some
I'm a
positivity.
little bit hyper today. I need to be a little bit more grounded. I had a bit of a rough weekend, but I'm all good. I'm living the dream.
Okay, awesome. So, before we start asking you some interesting questions, as I said, can you talk about yourself again? I'm sorry if you
Yeah,
have
sure.
to repeat
No,
yourself.
not at all. So yeah, so obviously my name's Phil Davis. I'm 35 years old and I live in the UK. I've got two kids who are 14 and 11. I've worked in IT and technology for basically my whole career since I was about 18 years old in some shape or another. And currently my main kind of business is Flyform, which does basically technology consulting. So we consult to large businesses on automation, and we build software out for them to help them do things better.
Yeah. Do you help them like with what exactly? Like with just automation and like productivity, or?
There's a specific product. So right now we only specialize with one product, which is called ServiceNow. That's not our product. So ServiceNow is like a $50 billion US company, and we sit in their partner channel. So we go in and we consult on HR, customer service, IT operations, and we basically work with the client to figure out how we can make things more efficient for them, but also give the customers a better experience as well. And then we basically tailor the software to fit their exact needs.
That's actually really awesome. I'm gonna
Cool.
have some more questions about this like later after the
It's a
interview.
big, deep topic, which is why I try and give people a small version, because it goes on and lots of complicated questions.
Exactly. Otherwise, it's gonna be like three hours long. Can I ask you these questions later? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. So, who was Philip when he was a teenager? How were you? Did you like know you could do these things right now? You could run this company, etc. Or?
That's a good question. It's really interesting, actually. I was always a really kind of ambitious kid, and I always had very big goals. So ever since I was like 4 or 5 years old, I would tell my mum that I'm going to be a millionaire. You know, I'd be like, I'm going to be a millionaire. Don't worry. I'm going to sort everything out. Everything's going to be okay. And I had this belief inside me that I was definitely going to do that, but I had no idea how. And
Like
I think,
Warren Buffett.
Yeah, maybe. And it was just,
he said
yeah,
he said that.
he says the same.
He said I've never had a doubt about it that I was going to become rich.
Yeah, and I've always felt the same. But I was kind of you go through phases where you feel super confident, and then you have no idea what's going on. And I think, you know, the beautiful thing about being a child is that you're very naive, right? So I didn't really know how I was going to do it. I thought maybe I would have this great idea and just become rich, but obviously the reality is a shit ton of hard work. You know, which was where the real kind of profit came from. But yeah, so Philip as a child, that was how I always felt. I think my
As a teenager too.
Teenage was very different. I think I always still believed it then. And if you speak to friends of mine who were friends with me then, and it's really complimentary, it makes me feel quite emotional, but they always say, well, we always knew you were special. We always knew you were going to do something, you know, which is strange to hear because I've been through so many rough periods of my life in terms of depression, anxiety, substance abuse, You know, you name it, I've been through it in a major way.
I think
So
depression makes you smarter, actually. It's
yeah,
important.
yeah, I don't know. It definitely gives you a different perspective on life. You know, you go through a lot
Yeah,
of different things, and you learn to connect with people in a different way, I think, as well. You know.
yeah. So were you like obsessed with business like when you were a teenager, or just like you were abusing drugs and
No, it
doing
was. I think in my early teens. So drugs for me were kind of later on. Like really, like 17, 18 onwards. I was quite late actually compared to a lot of my friends, where it became really an issue. Prior to that, I was definitely obsessed with computers. So like 13 to 17, I would just be online all the time. And that was when the internet was really just kind of coming about. Nobody really knew. No one really knew what the internet was. There was like nobody in the UK. I was the only child in my school that had the internet at home. You know.
and what were you
Um,
doing with it?
Oh man, I was just addicted. I was in chat rooms. We used to have something called IRC, and we'd be coding, and we'd be, dude, we were just like hacking as many things as we could. We would like downloading movies and music before that didn't exist, you know. So back then it was a real kind of underworld thing.
Nice.
And business too, you know. I think I was definitely always entrepreneurial, which only now I look back and realize. So ever since I remember the first time I tried to probably profit actively was I was only 6 or 7 years old. So this is going back 30 years, so it sounds old fashioned, but you could order a magazine that had practical jokes in the magazine, and you could order the practical jokes and sell them on for a profit. So I was going around trying to sell these jokes to my family and friends and stuff and making money, you know. And as I got older, you know, in school, I would be selling sweets, cigarettes, just anything you think of that you could profit. It's terrible, really, right? But at the time, I thought it was great. You know, I was like, I could buy these for £1, and I could sell them for £10, and I can smoke for free. This is like,
It's
this is amazing.
it's not it's not terrible. Actually, whenever I hear someone talking like a successful entrepreneur talking about their teens, they say the same thing, like they sold this and that. But in my case, it's quite scary because when I was a teen, I didn't do any of that. So I don't know. I'm like in my case, I always like think that I'm gonna be rich too, and like, I'm
Yeah,
gonna do
yeah,
something great. But I get scared when I hear stories like yours.
yeah. Dude,
Because
do you know
I didn't
what?
do it.
We all do the same thing, dude. You know, I used to hear people's stories, and what we do as humans is we pick out the bits that we filter out all the good stuff, and we pick out the bits that we see weakness, and we think, well, I didn't do that, and I didn't do that. I used to do it all the time. I
Yeah.
used to do it all the time, dude. Even in my career now, I went through a phase of seeing other people with consultant businesses, and they all had like degrees and MBAs and this, and I would sit there and think, oh man, they got that, they got that, they got a good, you know, their parents didn't break up, and we make little stories to keep ourselves at a certain level. And the sooner we break
Yeah,
free of those stories, the sooner we start fulfilling our potential. So don't worry, man,
exactly.
your path will leave you there, you know,
True.
100%.
Do you know Sam Ovens?
Some of, pardon?
Sam Ovens.
Yeah, I do, yeah.
He's got a successful, really successful business and no degree, and like
Yeah,
really successful
dude,
consulting business. I
I
mean,
have no degree as well, so, you know.
yeah. I dropped out too, and now I have to go back because I can't like stay in here and like continue with my business. So,
Yeah.
but
Need
it's
to do something.
entrepreneurship. An
It is.
entrepreneurship degree. I have nothing, absolutely nothing to do with it, like to work with like, later on.
It'll give you something. It'll give you some knowledge for sure, man. You know.
So I just wanted to ask you like one last thing about this teenage stuff.
Yeah.
Um, when like when you did you like make your first like real money online or not?
Um, not an online business. No, I never really made much money online. There were lots of opportunities, but for me, I was very much ruled by, I guess now, knowing what I know now about myself in terms of ADHD and autism and things, looking back, I was very much ruled by my impulsiveness, by my messiness. So I was always a firecracker full of ideas and ambition and energy, but I never had the focus to execute any of those ideas. I had friends who were a million times slower than me and a million times not as smart as me, and they were making way more money than me online because they could sit with one good idea and
Yeah, and
execute. I would have 16,000 ideas a day and I would try them all. And over the long term, even over 10 years, that amounted almost to nothing, you know?
Yeah.
So I was very fortunate that I went into kind of, I had by the way, I had some terrible jobs before IT. So I've worked in a factory, like screwing speakers all day long in a TV, and then you press a button and the TV goes and another one comes. So you can imagine for people with
Oh
ADHD,
my God, yeah.
it's like soul
No.
destroying, dude. It's soul destroying. So
This
it's the same
reminds
job.
me of something else.
Press a button, dude. So after I've done all those kind of jobs. I worked in pubs, I worked in
Oh my
factories. I did,
God.
you know,
For how
I just
long?
did
For how
couple of
long did
years,
you
man, you
just
know,
do this
like,
job?
oh,
Couple of years.
the speakers I did for like 3 months before I must have gone crazy. But even you can imagine 10 hours a day, you stand in front of this machine,
Yeah.
you screw 4 screws in with this machine, you press the button, the next TV comes, and then you screw another 4 in, and you press the button. And I'm standing there looking at these people that have been there for 20 years. And I'm like,
yeah.
you've been doing this for 20 years? I can't do this for 2 more minutes, you know? This is so. But I needed the money, man. I was poor, like, you know. We were poor growing up. I wanted the money. I didn't care how I got it. I was like, just give me the job. I'll take the money, you know.
Yeah, I worked a similar job for 12 hours. My sent them an email. I told them this job got me depressed. I can't do it anymore.
Man, it was tough on my soul.
I
You know,
didn't
it
need,
was.
yeah. By the way, I didn't need to stay, so that's why it was like 12 hours before I got
Yeah.
mad. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of see how a job feels like. But I mean, this I
get
was
it.
planning to stay like for at least a month or so, but I couldn't.
I ended up trying to change departments there, so I would have another job where I would like be clipping bits of plastic on. But it was like I would do that for a month, and then I would try another job just at least so there was some change. But so no,
Yeah.
lots of those horrible jobs, and then I got an apprenticeship in IT, very very low pay, like £50 a week. You know, it was like a government scheme to just give you something to do with your industry. But that managed to springboard me into a big corporation where I managed to get into. And I did pretty well in the corporate world by like normal people's standards. And by normal, I mean, I guess, like I'm super ambitious. Like my goals are huge. Financial goals are big. So by like average people's definition, my corporate career was successful. But I knew I was messing up my corporate career all the time, mainly through behavioral issues, which stemmed from, again, impulsivity, emotional immaturity, and then drinking and stuff on top of that when you go for nights out. All these things together would always be limiting my career,
How was
limiting my career, you know?
how was your sleep too?
To be honest, dude, I can't even remember. Man, I was not disciplined back then. I would be out at like 3, 4 in the morning with like my girlfriend, just talking and drinking, and then I'd go home and get up at 7 a.m. for work. Well, I say get up. Every day was a challenge to go to work, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, all those systems and structures weren't there for me, and they spilled into my performance. So the funny thing was, like I said though, and I'm sure this is the case for a lot of the viewers with ADHD, is that even me, and I mean this with no arrogance or ego, but people have pointed this out to me, which is the only reason I know that when I'm running at 10 or 20%, like I'm still like way faster than most regular people. So like I could be out all night partying and come in, and 90% of the people in the office, I could still work better than them, smarter than them, faster than them. So I think that carried me a long way. Like, I think if I didn't have that ability, then doing what I was doing is how people fail in those jobs, you know? But because I
Yeah.
could balance myself out, I could still go fast enough to keep the job and get promoted. But then it would always be a behavioral issue that caused me to fall down and not
But
quite fit in and not quite feel like it was my place, you know?
but was it like this thing that you like you said you could like screw around and then come back and work harder and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Was this type of work something that you hated or something that you uh, just could do it? It wasn't something you hated and it wasn't something you enjoy.
Yeah, in the office jobs, I enjoyed it, but it was always, again, now I think it's probably ADHD related, but I would love the first, like, I joined that job, and for the first 3 months, I was obsessed. I was like, all new. It was like new stuff, new things to learn, new tools to learn. I was like, bang, 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 bang. But I'm a quick learner, so I would learn it really quick, and then it would just become normal, and I would become bored. And once I get disengaged, I suffer from real bad disengagement, which I'm sure a lot of people do. I didn't
Yeah.
know it at the time. I could never understand why I would always be so much more disengaged than everyone else. So I would start really well. I would overperform. Then I would hit a peak, and then I would get bored, and then I would drop, and I would just do the bare minimum to keep that going. So I would be working like 10% a day. I would be like 10%, do this. And then I'd be on YouTube and Facebook, just like trying to just keep myself busy and entertained, man. And that's the truth, you know. It's terrible, really, but like people would never think that. Looking at me back then, I'd be sat there looking busy, but I didn't need to do a whole day of work to give the output that they needed from me. And because it didn't engage me, and because I couldn't see a direct reward to my efforts, it just lost me very quickly, you know.
Yeah.
And I think you'd see other people get
totally
promoted, and it would kill you. You know, you'd just be thinking, well, why bother? It was a lot of mindset work for me. You know, you become disenchanted and you just don't want to carry on anymore. And then all of a sudden, then I would hate the job, and I would be bored, and I would be depressed, and all those other feelings kick in. And then you get a change, and you go back on the same cycle. So I changed to a different role, get excited, perform, bored, depressed, and that was the cycle for years. You know.
I know, like I can 100% relate with this. Like I can relate with this. Like, to be honest, this is something that happens to me all the time, especially when I was in school. But right now, like with Adhd-oers, with this brand, I'm like focused, and I don't see anywhere else, because I love it. You know, I just love it. Anyway, I was gonna ask you, when did you know you had ADHD? By the way, were you like diagnosed young or?
No, so I actually only got diagnosed 18 months ago, so last year, which was adult diagnosis, and then before that I never really knew. I always felt I always knew something was different.
It helps a lot with self-awareness.
Self-awareness has been huge, you know. I think, funnily enough, about 4 or 5 years ago, a guy who's got ADHD said to me, he's like, "Dude, do you have ADHD?" And I was like, "I don't know." He's like, "I think you got really like significant ADHD." And I was like, "Really?" Because I've always been like full of energy and bouncing around, but it was never diagnosed. And I think, you know, a lot of people, they present differently, right? So for me, I'm full of energy, but I'm not necessarily very hyperactive. So I can sit still if I need to. My leg will be shaking, but I can sit still, you know, so I could sit in class. I would do things. For me, my ADHD was always very reckless impulsivity based. So
me too,
I would do a lot of, like, you know, I guess I've only got extreme examples, but say driving in the car, I would be driving too fast and I would be making a bad decision, or I would blurt something out when I'm talking to someone that's maybe inappropriate, you know. I would be like, and looking back, it's like, wow, you had no control over
when
these.
you when you see someone saying the exact same things that happened to you, it's like too funny.
Yeah, so it got me in a lot of trouble, you know. I've been in, like, lots of times I was in trouble, like with the police and stuff, and I could never really knew why, because people would be like, "Dude, you seem like a really chilled guy, and you're really intelligent." I'd be like, I don't know why I'm doing it. I'm like, I don't know why, and I can't explain. And like, because I was drinking so much back then, it would always be like alcohol involved. So I always just assumed in the end, I was like, right, well, clearly me getting drunk is a problem. But in reality, it was the combination of both. And also, I still do it sober. You know, I'll be sober, I'll still drive too fast sometimes, or I'll still make a bad decision or say a bad thing. And, you know, I'm fortunate I'm at the age now where that's calming down for me. But yeah, I never knew. But looking back, when I found out, it was like all the pieces just dropped into place. So I was actually having an assessment for autism for a condition called PDA, which is pathological demand avoidance. And I was having the assessment because my son had gone through the assessment. So we spent a number of years recently trying to figure out what was up with my youngest son. And it took us down this path. I was having this assessment, and the assessor said to me, she said, "Well," she said, "most of the stuff you just described to me, though, is your ADHD." And I was like, "What ADHD?" And she was, and I was like, "Shit, that explains a lot, you know." So yeah, it was an emotional time. Like I said, looking back, the pieces just make so much sense, and you know, for a little, very short period, it was upsetting to realize how much under the radar I'd gone. And I think for people who can achieve as well as have those conditions, it's very difficult, because especially back 20 years ago when I was in school, or 25 years ago, like, awareness wasn't where it was now. And because my grades, I could be kicked out of a class all year and I could walk in and get the top grade on the paper, you know. It was like, if it was a subject to me, there were subjects I could just walk in and just answer them. So when they look at you on a piece of paper,
but you weren't like first in class all the time.
Not all the time, no. But it was weird. It was kind of like on my good, when I'm on a good day, I was always on, you know. But I was never like goodwill hunting with, you know, the formulas and the maths. It's not like that kind of like intelligence, but I was always very quick. So if I heard someone once or saw it once, it was in, and I would recall it, and people couldn't beat me. I was very competitive, always very competitive as well. So
Yeah, that's like a good trait to have.
definitely gets me a long way.
Yeah. So, but do you think right now that your ADHD has something to do with your success,
100%.
or 100%?
100%. Yeah. Now I embrace it now, and I'm grateful for it now. Like to the point where sometimes I'm scared that I don't want to do anything that would turn it off in some ways, you know. And I think it's a double-edged sword, right? Because there's days where my mental health, I still struggle with my mental health. Like I get better all the time. So every year in my life, I'm stronger and more prepared. But there are days like this weekend that's just gone by. I've had a really rough weekend full of anxiety. And I know why. Like I burned myself out a little bit. So there's days where I know that the overthinking, the obsessive thoughts, the impulsivity, some days, dude, that stuff crushes me. You know, it crushes me to the point where, like, I will literally think, well, if this is what life is going to be like for me with this condition, I don't want to live like this. You know, like if I let it get hold of me,
Yes.
it can take me that far down. So I don't want to make out like it's all roses, but when I can manage it and when I can work with it, the peaks it gives me, like I know
It's unbelievable.
Like, my competition doesn't stand a chance, you know.
It's like being under
don't.
like the effect of some drug or something. It's like you're in a trance state when you're like really in the flow, like when you're
Definitely, man.
going in the momentum. It's like you don't feel the time passing, but you're doing stuff after stuff, and things are happening, and
yeah,
you're selling easily, and it's a weird effect.
definitely. For me, I was always just quicker than other people, generally, and I can give you examples where, like, even before my awareness noticed, like my business partner now, my main business partner, he would always say to me, he's like, dude, you come in these rooms and everyone's in the room for like an hour trying to solve a problem, and then you walk in and you just go, well, this is the answer, and then I have to spend like 30 minutes trying to explain to them why I'm right. So I always had this ability to just cut through problems always. So if something's going on or someone's talking, I'm 20 steps ahead and I can solve it and I can do it. And that's been my benefit, you know. I can absorb new ideas really rapidly and I can make new solutions for problems really rapidly. But the flip side of that, just so you know, so with me and my business partner, we literally fit together like this. It's a perfect.
That's what I was gonna ask. I wanted to ask you this question. Like, do you think we need a business partner when we have ADHD too?
I do, dude.
And which type of business partner? How does it?
I think you've got to fit. I think you've got to fit it to you. You know, it's got to be individual. But I think so. For me, I'm very So in my business now, I'll tell you how it works is. And my business partner doesn't mind me saying this, but like, so I'm talking like 90% of the time. So 90% of the time, I'm the ideas guy. So I have all the kind of ideas like, dude, there's a gap in that market. Let's get into that market. Let's have this idea. I build all the relationships. So people love my energy. So I go off and I build the relationships with partners, with clients. I do a lot of the sales activity. So I like to go in the room. It keeps me entertained. It keeps me busy. When it comes to the doing, and I've only recently learned this in the last like year or two, you put me in front of a document that I've got to go and type a proposal document. Like, will I do it if my life depends on it? Yes. Can I do it mentally? Am I capable? Yes. But there's some kind of wall that someone constructs in front of me. And I'm not kidding you. Like, I've been in tears. I have sat with a document, dude, and I mean actually crying. So I've sat at home. I've sat there like crying, thinking, I can't do this. I don't want to do it. You know, I'm stuck. Or I'm in peak flow and I can write, as soon as I get to the last hour, I'll write the 25-page document in the last hour, you know, and it's like, blah, blah, blah,
yeah.
blah. But when someone's trying to make me do it like a regular person, a neurotypical person, I can't sit in that structure and do it. Now, my business partner, this guy, he is Mr. Focused, Mr. Structured, and he's an executor. So he's got 10 jobs to do that day. He looks at the list, he prioritizes them, he takes the top priority, he sits for 2 hours, grinds it out, and goes to the next one. I'm 27,000 tabs and 16,000 copies of Excel deep before I realized that I started an idea 2 hours ago over there, and I'm on like the 17th idea now. And, you know, it takes me a lot of time to, like, I get better at that, obviously, in these days where I'm pretty good at it, but it's about identifying your natural skill set. So
Yeah,
I do learn to focus
exactly.
now. There are days I have to focus, and I do. But
And I can
naturally,
see,
he does it, you know?
yeah, and I can see like right now you're working on yourself, so it's probably affecting the focus and affecting the organization side. Because I
For
know,
sure.
I think for example right now I'm trying to structure myself, so I think I gotta be like efficient like 80% of the time, and then in 20% I just go in this dark side of myself where I just like completely ruin every structure that I made.
Yeah, yeah.
I would get depressed, and I would, but I would listen to every bullshit out there. Like I would even watch something about the Kardashians, even though I've never done that
Yeah,
yet. But
I
I
know what
would
you're
do it.
saying, though. I get it. Yeah,
And
yeah.
this like chaos of ideas and stuff. It
Mm.
like after this dark side, I have like 180 ideas written in my notes, or more, or even more.
Yeah,
It's like a machine creating a lot of
yeah,
ideas, and but then I gotta focus and be very efficient, right?
yeah.
Uh, if you've never tried this, I think you should, but be careful because you can get stuck in this dark side. It's pretty easy to get stuck.
Definitely, dude. And so for me, I'm constantly trying to pull myself out of that side all the time. And I do a lot of stuff like to-do lists and prioritization lists. And to be honest, those things have really worked for me. They help me. I'm very, very forgetful. So if stuff doesn't get written down, it's probably going to get lost forever.
Gonna go.
And even then, sometimes I end up with like 13 different lists. So again, every now and again, I got to stop and think, hang on, is this getting out of control? How can I bring this back together? What can the system be? So it's all about tools and systems for me. What tools and systems can I put in place to make myself execute better and execute more efficiently? And some of those tools and systems could be other people. So for me, like on a really crude way, my business partner is an excellent tool and system for me where I go off and find stuff right now. And I say, dude, this is what we got to do. And he does it. And then I've got a personal assistant now. She will take my day and structure my day and be like, you're in, like tomorrow I'm in London. She's like, right, you're in London tomorrow. You're this time here, this time here. You need to spend these 2 hours on this job and these 2 hours on this job, you know? And that loosely works sometimes. I don't follow the rules enough, so I still sometimes fight back and try and
Yeah.
go rogue. But it's all about what you can put in place to help yourself fight through that.
Yeah, and I mean, life is like a constant like pull towards chaos, and like we're like easily pulled.
Yeah,
The people who have ADHD, we're easily pulled to that chaos. So it's even harder to like fight this chaos. So
definitely.
because
I also think ADHD people thrive in chaos. So like my business partner would always used to say about me that I thrive in chaos. So, and it's because we get engaged, because when you're sat there all day in a spreadsheet, like wanting to kill yourself, and then some big crisis happens, it's like, wow. And for us, we're thinking so fast that you could throw me in a crisis. And this is how I did so well in my career. We'd have a big crisis. I would walk in the room and I'd be like, bang, you do this, you do this, you do this, bang, 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 bang. I could just fix it straight away. Because in that chaotic environment, I'm at home because we spend so much time there. That chaos to me
exactly,
is
you're
a warm
used to
spot.
it.
I'm used to it. It doesn't even
You're
bother me.
used
I'm
to
like,
it.
this is cool. You know,
But then
where
you
other
gotta.
people, their heads
But then
explode.
exactly. But then I feel like I gotta get out from it from time,
Yeah.
because I feel like I gotta get out from the chaos.
It'll burn you out in the long run. It's
It
not a
burns.
healthy place to
Yeah.
live, dude. You gotta, I think one of the things I've learned about myself is recognizing how is my energy being consumed. Am I actually serving myself? Am I keeping an eye on myself? Because otherwise it's lots of booms and busts. So lots of periods where I'll be running. Again, you use my business partner as an example. For me, I come in here and I'm like this, and my energy is up here, my ideas, and then 2-3 weeks later or a month later, I'm down here. I'm broken again, and then I'm back up again because I'm chaotic. Whereas he is just like this all the time. So he doesn't
Yeah.
come up as high, but he's consistent. So I think for me, it's trying to manage.
Oh
I'd
my
rather
God. Yeah.
be a little bit like I'm trying to make the lows not so low, and if that means the highs aren't so high, then or shorter, then that's
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
what I try
I
and
know what
manage
you
all the
mean.
time. It'll be better for me to be up here all the time than do this and this and this
You
and this, you
can't.
know.
You can't.
But I still fight that sometimes I fight that every day, dude. You know, I've
Yeah.
been fighting it today. Some days are great, some days are hard, and I just I try not to judge myself, and I try and go with the flow, and you know.
Yeah, and do you think like you could do the same work if you actually worked from home or not? Or like when you go to the company building,
So
you feel like you can
yeah,
do more work, you feel like you're in the zone and
to be honest, I think at the moment I'm at a point where both serve me. So I often work from home right now, and I'll take days like even tomorrow. I'm thinking of working at home because I'm a little bit from the weekend. I had the high anxiety. I'm a little bit burned out, I feel, and even coming in. So some days it's nice. I stay at home. It means I can be a bit more relaxed in my routine. Things don't take so I don't have to spend an hour and a half driving in and out. So those
an
things are
hour and a
nice.
half?
Well, it's about 30, 40 minutes each way. So out of my day, I'm losing an hour and a half, right? And
You're
then,
losing a lot of time.
and even like I get dressed, I like to come in nice. Whereas at home, I can put on my chill clothes. I mean, it's my office here, so I can come in jog. I come in some days just relax anyway. But it depends what I've got going on, right? But at home, I can be a bit more relaxed now. But what I've identified in myself is there are definitely days where it's bad for me to be at home, and they can be either when I'm in a dark, dark place because by coming out into the office environment, it actually gives me a bit of a shock to be, you've got to speak to people. It stops you overthinking. You're not at home in your own world. But also there are some days where my discipline is so bad that I'm not going to get much done. I'm at home, I'm starting work, and then I'm on YouTube, and then I'm looking out the window, and then, and then I'm going to take a break and take a nap. And
Yeah.
like those days are much more rare for me now because I work really hard on discipline, but it's still in there. It wants to come out. So I now try and be very honest with myself. And I think like, if I'm going to be home tomorrow, am I in a place where I want to be at home because I need a little bit of quiet time? I need to get a couple of jobs done that need focus. And if I can answer those questions honestly, then I'll do it. If I think I'm just trying to take a day to mooch around and not be I'll
Oh, what happened?
to be more efficient.
Can you repeat? Can you repeat?
Sorry, yeah,
Just
somebody
like
called me and
yeah.
so yeah, if I can answer those questions to myself, like so if I know tomorrow I want to be at home because I need a little bit of time to myself, just maybe for my energy, because I'm quite introverted now, I've learned. So sometimes too much people can make me feel down. And also if I know I've got a few things to do, I just want to be focused at home, take that time, I'll do it. But if I'm not sure, then I'd rather come in here and use the office as being around people as a way to focus myself, because there's a bit more accountability, there's a bit more kind of that kind of stuff going on.
Yeah. So I have another question for you, and that's what's your opinion about like ADHD medication?
Sure.
I think I remember seeing like a post of yours saying uh XX days med free or something like that.
Probably.
Yeah, what do you think about it, and why were you thinking about like what was
Sure.
the purpose of this post basically?
Sure. So I guess so when it comes to ADHD meds, I don't know much about them is my honest answer, and so I
Yeah.
wouldn't want to give advice on them. What
No,
I
for you.
can say, yeah, but even for myself, I don't know much about them, and that's because obviously I never had the diagnosis. But from a medication perspective in general, what I can say is that I was heavily medicated for 8 years for what was diagnosed as anxiety disorder. So generalized anxiety disorder in the UK is called, which is GAD, which is basically
What
the bucket where they put
what was
you
this?
when. Well, this is the thing, right? So it was actually undiagnosed ADHD, dude. You know, but the psychiatrist I was seeing, so my symptoms were. Why I went there initially was actually a lot to do with my temper. So I would, as I said, I had this good career in corporate IT. I had a good managerial job. I was getting paid really well compared to a lot of people. And then I
You
would
were
be driving
ruining
to
it.
work. Dude, I would be driving to work and somebody would cut me up in the car. And I'm not exaggerating. And I'm not proud of these things, by the way. They're funny stories, some of them. But like, someone would cut me up in the car, dude. I would go to war with that person. Like, I would beep, flash. And then if they give me this, okay? So if they did this to me, it was like a red flag to a bull. Like, I couldn't control myself. I would overtake them. I would cut off the road. I'd get out the car. I'd be like, let's go. And I would stop all the traffic. Like, it was like full on, like full on. And sometimes I would do that like 3 times a week. Really exhausting behavior, man. And I couldn't understand it because afterward I'd be like, I don't want to. Like, first of all, I'm going to get myself in trouble. I'm upset at myself because I would do that, and for 3 hours later, I would be like angry and upset, and I couldn't let it go. I would want to find these people again. And Seriously,
Why
dude,
these
I would
people,
take it
man?
really personally, and also like the dark side of that, I think, was like my personal relationships. Like I would argue with my wife or like a family member or friend, and they would say something, I would just shout, I would scream, and like honestly, as a teenager, and so as a teen, in fact, even as a young child, like I remember like my parents like having a row. I remember once 5 years old, my mother like locked me outside because I was being really like shouty, aggressive, and screaming, and they didn't know what was going on. And I kicked the glass on the doors till it broke, you know. And as a teenager, I would like punch doors and cupboards and break things because there was just these emotions in me that I couldn't control, and I would come out in kind of violence and aggression a lot of the time. And then as I became a young adult, you know, you're kind of thinking, well, hang on, as a kid, those things happen maybe, and kids need to be worked with to understand how not to do that. But as an adult, then you kind of
Then
like
what?
there's
Yeah.
consequences, you know. And I had children at this point, and I'm like, I don't want to be shouty and aggressive guy. So I kind of went to this psychiatrist, and I was like, dude, I'm like really laid back, and I'm happy, and I'm sitting here now, and then in 5 minutes I'm shouting and screaming, or I'm punching a door, or you know, there was just these
And
behaviors I
like
couldn't explain.
you think about it at night, and you're like, man, imagine if this went this way and that way, and
Dude,
you're like,
I got
you're just
so much in really bad trouble with, like I said, like fighting in nightclubs and stuff was like a really bad problem for me. Like I had a lot of trouble with the law, and people could be hurt. I could be hurt. You know, it's like not a nice way you want to be when, like, I'm a pacifist in my heart. I don't like war. I don't like people being hurt, you know? So it was strange to behave like that. So I went to the psychiatrist initially with those symptoms. I was like, dude, I keep doing this kind of stuff. And then also obsessive thoughts. So overthinking everything, like fantasizing about bad things, good things, really getting into a bad knot about myself. And he put it down to like anxiety. And to be honest, he was right. It actually was anxiety. I was living in a world of constant anxiety. And they talk about freeze, flight, or fight, right? So, like a lot of people, so if you get hit with danger, which could be someone cut me up in the car, some people will freeze and they'll stop. Some people will kind of get scared or and run, and some people will fight. And it just happened for me that my response was a fight response. So if ever I felt threatened, I would want to fight, because that was how I defended myself.
yeah.
And what it turned out to be was that because my anxiety was so high, if you can imagine like a spring being coiled up, I was permanently coiled. So like I would be going anxiety at work, I'd have anxiety at home. I was constantly walking around basically like a spring coiled right up, and then finally something would pop, and then that would come out. Now, what I found afterward was, and only really I say afterward, this is like the last 18 months, is the psychiatrist at the time identified the anxiety and he tried to medicate the anxiety. But what we didn't realize back then was the anxiety was actually a symptom of the ADHD. So we were treating anxiety as being the problem. The anxiety was the ADHD being presented, because my mind was so scatty, and with the autism and the ADHD,
It was the source. The
it
ADHD
was the
was the source
source.
of it.
So where they medicated me for 8 years on citalopram, sertraline, fluoxetine, these are all SSRI medications. So Prozac, basically the last one, maximum doses as well. So huge doses of Prozac, beta blockers, then Valium, so benzos and stuff. All these medications, loads of them in me, man, you know? And it would kind of work a little bit for a while, and you'd kind of feel better, but it didn't quite do the job. And then you would start going backwards. And ultimately, looking back, these were the wrong meds for me, right? They were not attacking the source. They were attacking some of the symptoms. It would work for a while. And what really upset me was the fact that when I first went to the doctors, and the first time I ever got given antidepressants and stuff was, I was like 18. You walk in, and in fact, I'll talk about the time when I was 24, 25, when I got given the major medication. Nobody said to me, like, by the way, there are risks with these meds. By the way,
Really?
you know, you should, not at all. The guy was like, here's a script, bang, go for it. You know, it wasn't like, this could make you feel worse, or this, you might want to try and do this for 6 months maybe to get over. Like, I think, so my answer to the question is, I think there's a place for medication for everybody if they need it at the time. But I think it's very individual. And I think you need to understand the risks. I think you should have tried to exhaust other avenues if you can, in terms of mindfulness, natural remedies. You know, try some other things first, just if you can. And I'm not talking about people who are in a crisis. If you're in a crisis, you take what you need to. I will still take Valium now. If I'm having a day where I'm completely losing my shit and I'm worried about myself, I'm happy to take medication, you know. But what I don't want people to do is go on medication for life without being warned about it. For me, after 8 years, when it became apparent that the meds weren't working anyway, and I tried to come off them, it took me about 6 months to taper the meds down on my own protocol because the doctors weren't helpful. And coming off them was, I've come off a lot of substances. I've been sober for 3.5 years, and I came off some really addictive substances. And
Like what?
So cocaine was the biggest one for me. That was the problem drug that took my soul at the end. All other substances had been a problem prior to that. I didn't realize how much at the time, but looking back, I was always self-medicating. I was always trying to turn down the noise. So I would either be drinking or smoking weed. That was just what I did every day, one or the other or both for my whole life. You know, that was how it was. I thought that was okay. And then, cocaine at the end really ruined me. And I got off all of that, and then I started these meds. And honestly, coming off those meds was as hard, if not harder, as coming off those other hard drugs. I was emotionally damaged for a very long time. I cried every day for months and months and months. I was having small seizures coming off Prozac. It just messed me up, dude. It was horrible, which is why now I've been off those meds for 3 years now. And I don't, what I've recently started doing, about 2-3 months ago, is I started taking CBD. So CBD oil, cannabis oil, but no THC, so just pure CBD. And I think that's been having a really positive effect actually on me in terms of my overthinking. So it's helped giving me a little bit of more calmness in my mind, a little bit calmer with other people, able to take a step back before I react and things, you know.
How often do you take it?
Every day. So I take it right now. I'm just taking it every day. I've been taking mine in the morning, but either or, you know. For me, I pretty much do anything in my life I need to do. I try and do it in the morning because that's when I can be productive and I lose my trail for the day.
So then it helps you with like productivity.
I think so, yeah. I think mainly for me it was that kind of that overthinking and the kind of the fast mind all the time, the noise. Like obviously I meditate every day, so I meditate every day. I exercise nearly every day, so I do lots of things to try and bring calmness to myself and reground. And I did the CBD because earlier this year I had a bit of a small like nervous breakdown. I went through a lot of bad stuff at home. My mental health kind of deteriorated, and I got into the worst spot I've been in for years. So coming out of that, I thought I'll give the CBD a try as well. And also, to be honest with you, I wanted my kids to potentially use CBD for their symptoms. And I wanted to use myself as a guinea pig first. So I thought, well, I'll try this. And I thought if this gives me a great reaction. So I do a lot of that for them. And but it's definitely, people around me are saying they can see a difference in my focus and my drive. So that's, you know, and I think it's both.
They've seen the difference.
Yeah, people are saying they can see a huge difference. Now, I've done a lot of work on myself as well, but also I think it's both, you know? So I don't quite know which one it is, but I'll keep going with it for a while, and maybe I'll probably stop after some time and just see if I notice a degradation. Because I want to keep, keep those things to a minimum.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to ask you, how much time do you have left? Because I still have more questions, but I'm
okay, dude. Yeah, it's fine, dude. You keep going and we'll...
Awesome. So... my next question would be, how about like being vegan?
Yes.
And did you see any improvements in terms of your focus or anything similar like that? Because I think the what you eat affects you like heavily. Do you also care about your gut health and things like
Definitely.
that? Or
really? Yeah, I think for me the vegan diet started for ethical reasons, so like for animal rights. I was always vegetarian. My mother was vegetarian, so that was kind of what got me into it. But what the triggers after that for me were amazing. So like from a health perspective, I mean, I don't know if you've seen the photo of me 5 years ago. I'll send you a copy later, so I've lost now about 60 pounds or something of weight.
So you were a lot bigger.
So for a long time, I was kind of quite muscular. And then with depression and with injuries, I stopped training and I just literally turned into a big fat blob, dude. And I was just big, fat, overweight, no energy, all caffeinated all the time. So 4 years ago when I got sober, 3.5 years ago, so the drugs and alcohol stopped first. And then I stopped the medication over 6 months later. and then I stopped smoking nicotine, and then I quit caffeine as well. And then at the same time, I went vegan. So I basically decided that once I got off those drugs and then I got off those meds, I was like, hang on, dude, if I can get off that and that, I can do anything with my life, you know? So I was like, well, I don't want to smoke. The caffeine, I was drinking a lot of caffeine. I'd be like full of energy and then you crash, and full of energy and you crash, you know? And I was sick of that feeling. I just wanted to be as level as I could be all the time. And the vegan diet really propped that up. I found that, I mean, I used to eat unhealthy, so it'd be like fast foods and cheese, you know, even as a vegetarian, lots of dairy, lots of processed foods. Whereas now I'm heavily, obviously all plant-based, but I'm heavily whole food based as well. So I'll eat as healthy as I can all the time, because my energy, like healthy energy, is up there. Like there are many times like where we have been working, me and my business partner, 12 to 16 hours a day, sleeping for 4 to 6 hours, and get back up and do that every day for weeks on end, because we're in the middle of a crisis, you know? And I don't recommend anybody does that. You don't have to have that mentality of not sleeping to be an entrepreneur, but there will definitely be times in your business when
at the end, when you
fan.
At the end, when you sleep well, I think you could do better in the long term, because you could see things you wouldn't see otherwise if you're not sleeping. So when you're not sleeping and you're working hard, you're gonna keep working hard because you don't see the option that would lead you to not work hard.
Definitely. Last week too, I didn't sleep properly. Yeah, last week I didn't sleep properly, and I was ill. I had a cold, and I didn't take the warning signs, and that's what ruined my weekend. It really blew me out. You know, it was like one night I slept for 2.5 hours, and I had to drive 3 hours to a client and 3 hours home, and I had my kids, so I didn't look after myself last week, which was my lesson. So yeah. I think, but also it's quality of sleep, right? It's quality of sleep. So when I quit all the caffeine and the alcohol, like I could sleep for 6 hours, and it was like getting 10 hours before or more. Like I used to sleep for 10 hours and I'd wake up feeling like crap, whereas now I can sleep for 6 hours and I can jump up and be like, boom, you know?
Yeah.
So just,
do you have an Aura ring or not?
What,
sorry? Do you know an Aura ring? Do you know Aura ring?
Oh, I don't have one. No. I haven't researched those much, actually. I should look into those.
It's great for, I'm waiting for mine right now, but it's great for tracking your sleep and tracking your REM and deep sleep. So you can actually know, they give you like a readiness score whenever you wake up.
Yeah.
And each time you do something, for example, bad, it will reflect directly the next day, and you can see it, and you can know what was the thing that you did yesterday, for example, that ruined your sleep. And I'm waiting for mine right now, because I think two things, meditation and sleep, are the most important thing for me right now, in order for me to keep moving forward and keep pushing.
Definitely. And the one thing I would say to you and to other, well, I say men, it may be the same for women, or it might be different, but I only know the male statistic, which is that last year when I had my assessment, the lady told me that basically neurotypical males emotionally mature between 12 and 18, and ADHD males, science has shown, emotionally mature between 28 and 35. Now, if you take me as an example, I'm 35 now, so like for me, looking back as well, it was around like 30, 31 where I started to get sober. I started to piece things together, and I'd hang all of that on being sober. I thought, well, when I got sober, all of this stuff changed. But I think it was actually both. I think I got sober, but also I was going through my emotional maturity. Like, and I'll give you an example that doesn't fit the business context. So, like, as a 20-year-old in a relationship, I was very jealous. I was very kind of like controlling. I was paranoid about other men. It was like I guess emotionally childish behaviors, or very insecure behaviors. And I thought they were just part of like my personality. Whereas now I'm a bit older, a bit more mature now. And for me, with the ADHD maturity especially, I'm a totally different guy. I'm chill. I'm not paranoid. I'm comfortable in myself. And I have days where that's worse than other days still, because I'm learning new skills now. But it really shifted the balance for me. So I would say to anyone who's fighting that battle, especially young men, and probably the same for young women. Like I said, I don't know the ages, but just have faith that the more control you can give yourself now, and when you start to hit the late 20s and get older, it just starts to slow. And the strangest thing is, it hasn't slowed me in the way I was scared it was going to slow me and make me less like superpowered. You know, I thought it was going to take the good side of the ADHD as well. But I'm still, when I want to be super ADHD and focused and ideas, it's all in there. but I'm much more calmer in the negative side. So I don't, like I said, I'm much less reckless now. I'm much less impulsive now. I'm much more in control of myself now. And that's really been a big shift for me through that age period as well. And apparently from like now to 40 is like the golden era of slowing down, is what the lady assessing me told me. So
yeah, I think in my case, I think the maturity thing was happening like how happened last year for me, but I don't know. I can't know actually.
And it carries on, right? It carries on. Yeah.
Yeah, for a lot of things, I'm starting to put like the puzzle together and the pieces together last year. I'm starting to understand some more concepts, and I'm like, am I just stupid, or like, am I just like, do I have like a kid's brain or something? Because I think like they talked about this like a few years ago, and for example at school or something. The other students understood it the way I just understood it right now, or what? So like, what happened? But yeah, when it comes to also like controlling your emotions and stuff like that, it is very important. There's someone asking, do you do some meditation? Do you do it right now or not?
I meditate every day. So I've meditated for a few years. This year I actually slipped a little bit when I went through that breakdown. I kind of I fell off the wagon, I guess, is what we call it in the UK, and I stopped. But no, I meditate every day right now. So
do you see instant effects or no?
Sometimes I definitely feel calmer when I come out. I feel like I've had that connection to source and I've got that calmness. But I definitely notice, usually if I stopped, which I don't stop very often now, but if I stop for 2-3 days or longer, all of a sudden I notice I feel a little bit more agitated, a little bit more muggy in the brain. I start to get a bit more snappy and a bit more impatient.
This restlessness, impatience,
the restlessness.
Yeah. And if you feel like when you're trying to work, you don't have willpower. For me personally, I don't have much willpower when I don't meditate, and it's easier for me to go to YouTube when I'm supposed to work, for example. you know,
it just keeps you mindful in everything. It definitely. Exactly. I think the longer I do it, I keep feeling more mindful. So helps me focus for work, and definitely helps me be a better person to other people in my life. So things will happen, and I won't just jump in with my first reaction. I can think, hang on, how should this be?
Yeah. So let's go to the time management right now. How do you manage your time, and how do you stay motivated right now?
So time management. So first of all, I live in my calendar. So I'll send you guys some screenshots on the page later of like an example of my diary for the week. But every day in Outlook, so I use the Outlook diary. Every day is in there. Every meeting I've got, everything I need to do, even to the point where, like a lot of time, I put my workouts in there. So I get up at like 5:30. I've got this slot for meditation, this slot for exercise. I'm driving to the office here. Then I've got these meetings. Then I'm doing this work. Sometimes I even put down there when I'm going to eat. I'm like, I need to remember to eat there, or it's not going to happen, you know. And I'll work like that. And then in terms of granular time management, I did get a lot out of to-do lists. So I write a to-do list, and I used to do that basically every day. So I would write what was in my brain that needs to go on paper before I forget. But I used to use a quadrant. So I don't know if you guys have seen this quadrant. It's quite common management where you have urgent, important, unimportant, you know, and non-urgent, whatever. And then I would move so first of all, I would write my list, and then I would go down the list and I would move it into the quadrants.
Did you do this every day?
I do that.
It's painful. I can't do it.
Yeah. So I used to do it every day, and it worked very well for me. Like, I would still never be as good as a person who was effective as a person that was natural to that. But every now and again, I would catch myself off on something, and I think, hang on, what was on the list? And I'd look at the list, and I think, holy crap, you've got that one task in the urgent, important quadrant that hasn't been done. And it started to bring me back to priority. What it helped me with was not so much time, but prioritization. It kept giving me focus back to my priorities. So I would manually draw a line through it as I did it. And until that quadrant was done, I wouldn't go to the next quadrant, you know?
Yeah. But then how does your personal assistant help you right now?
So now that's obviously, so she started with me this year, and that's been huge for me because her function really now is because the business has grown so big already, and I'm not just doing this business. So I'm building a personal brand right now. I got a podcast launching this year. We've got a charity being built within my organization. We've also got a social responsibility arm. So we give back to the community and we try and help people in the world. And we want to spin that out as a totally independent charity. I've also got 2 kids. I've gone through a marriage separation this year. So I'm busy as hell, man, you know? So what she now does is helps me not forget stuff. So rather than me needing to maintain all those lists now, I literally walk out of meetings with stuff to do and I just go, here's the 5 things I need. Here's the 5 things I need to do. Or I remember something, I send it to her. She will then help structure my diary. So she will say, like, you're on the train to London on this day. I'm going to put these 3 things in your diary that need to be done. So I will just open the diary. There'll be 3 things in there. I can go in and do them. Like, for me, on a personal basis, I suffer a lot with analysis paralysis. So
Yeah.
I will go around circles of one job to the point where I can't even do it. I will spend 2 hours worrying about how to do something where I could have done it, you know? So I quite like to give someone else kind of the accountability to say, you tell me where I need to be and what I need to do on those days, and I'll just turn up and do it. Because for me in the business right now, my goal is success of the business. So I want to be where my team need me whenever they need me there. I walk into a meeting, I get briefed for the meeting. So my assistant will write me a brief. She'll say, you've got a 1 hour meeting with this guy. This is what you're talking about. This is the research on these people. And I read that, I walk in, I hit it hard, I walk back out, and I'm done. Whereas if I got to do it on my own, awesome. I got to spend like a day worrying about where am I going, what am I going to wear, how am I going to get there, do I need a taxi, do I need a tube, who am I talking to about what? Then I'll probably forget.
It's called death by 1,000 cuts. You're like just taking small decisions that have like a short life or short half-life, and you're just like killing yourself. That's the video I just shot today.
Awesome.
This morning. Like
cool.
talking about this.
Dude, it's exactly that, man. So like I can be much more efficient and effective when people, because from my energy perspective, when I'm not worrying about all that stuff, I'm in a different, I'm focused on bigger problems rather than worrying about small details. And she filters other people out from me. So people will come, if people need stuff from me, they go to her. So she will decide whether I do it, when I can do it, and we talk every day and we talk all day, and she just helps me prioritize and keep track of that stuff.
Yeah, it helps a lot.
Yeah,
that's I mean, this like personal assistant thing is like the whole reason I started like focusing on ADHD at first, but then discovered it wasn't the thing I should be doing because because I used to have like virtual assistants agency, and that's the service we were providing.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I remember.
But then I realized that's not something that I would love to keep doing, especially that since I've been more involved in like the ADHD groups, etc. It's like discovering that this is my place. This is where I should be. This is where I should be, and these are the people that I should be talking to, and I should be serving them at the same time. Not with virtual assistants, because maybe later on with virtual assistants, but not with virtual assistants because it's not what they need right now. What they need right now is like tips on how to structure a lot of their things, like how to function better and stuff like that.
Yeah, I had a virtual assistant for a while. I used a virtual assistant before my full-time assistant, and it was really helpful, but it was also, they wanted the direction all the time. They wanted me to give them the task, and I needed someone actually to look at my tasks and say, dude, you need to take these bits out. And so it was a little bit, like you say, it wasn't quite, it kind of helped a bit, but it wasn't like a 10x kind of benefit,
It kind of need, the best thing is to have like a personal, if you have money for it, to have a personal assistant that is with you and a virtual assistant that assists the personal assistant.
It's exactly that, dude. And we do something similar to that right now, dude. I've been talking to my assistant lately because we already think I need another assistant because where we've gone and where my plans are for the next 1 year, 5 years, it's like, she's never going to keep up. So
yeah.
And that's not because that's her fault. That's because that's just how much we've got to do,
and because of your ADHD brain too.
I drag people down with me, man. And I beat them with experience.
So the next question is gonna be. By the way, I'm sorry for my accent and my English right now because I haven't.
Dude, you're
perfect.
Perfect.
My brain was racing a lot yesterday and I couldn't sleep, and it shows. For me, it shows right away.
No, dude,
My
I think you
brain is
feel
really slow.
very clear, very grounded, so it's all good.
So, what was the hardest period you've been through in your company, and how did you manage to get through it? But I also like, how did you feel in it? All of these things that happened, how did
Yeah,
you feel
I
it?
think the hardest part, I think it's the same in every business, right? Growing a business is just hard all the time, and there are darker. Some moments are darker than others. So, for example, when we first won our first major client, we tried to hire people to run the project for us. So we went out and we spent a load of money on like top-notch people that would come in and run it for us, and it went completely wrong. They were no good. This was our major client. We needed this client to be perfect so we could reference this client, get more work, and that kind of stuff. And that was very difficult for me. So I think just my advice to people when you're hiring people
Did
is
you
in
lose
the
that?
early.
Did you lose that client or not?
Did we? Hell, no way. They're a 10 out of 10 client of ours. They're still with us now 3 years later.
How did you manage to get through
So
it?
I'm quite lucky that I rely on my intuition a lot. And I don't know if that's an autism or an ADHD thing or both, but I'm very strong intuition. So within a week of this guy starting, I could see problems. I was like, dude, I'm feeling problems. Like my business partner, he doesn't have the same intuition. He's like, no, we're okay. We'll fix this. I'm like, no. So I think within a few weeks, I just said, let's get a handle on this quickly. And we basically, that guy got fired, another guy got fired, which was tough, but it was the way it had to be. And the reason it was so hard was my business partner and I had planned to put a team in place to run this project so we could go and carry on growing our brand and marketing and sales and growing the company. We ended up spending the entire year just doing that client ourselves. So we had a team of 6. There was 8 of us on the project. So me and my business partner ran the team, but we were so much in the details that we couldn't do anything else for the company. So
So
HR,
you were 8
marketing.
working on one client only.
Yeah, it was a big client. Yeah, it was a good
And
project.
the money you spent, was it like the retainer of the client, or like, was it money
Um,
you've invested yourselves?
for the business or for the people that we fired?
For the people you fired.
So yeah, we paid them. That money was gone.
With
That was
your
our
money,
my money. Yeah, yeah.
not the
No,
retainer.
no. So
So
that
then
was
it wasn't like a big problem. So for example, when you
well,
get a client and he pays
we
you and you do the job,
yeah,
it's
no.
this is
Well,
another story.
we hid the problem from the client by working so hard. So we literally ended up working. I'm not exaggerating at all. There were days where I worked from 6 a.m. to 1 a.m. the next morning, and then would sleep for 3-4 hours and do the same. And there were periods where we didn't, like weekends. We worked 10 to 12 hour days on weekends for multiple weeks after that particular person to
Just
try
the
and
founders, or
just the founders, yeah, just to try and claw
the
back all the problems. Like people would help us. So to be fair, when we were going live with that client, my team would work till 1 in the morning too. They were a brilliant team, But
okay,
when we
that's
were
awesome
when
then.
yeah. But when I've got an amazing team of people. My company now are just full of winners. They're all great guys. They're soldiers. They just get shit done. But back then, when you're in the early days and it's just you two, like no one else gives a shit. They're contractors, man. We're paying them. They kind of claim they care, but they don't really care.
Yeah.
So because we were trying to claw back the damage that had been done by this guy, we were working every hour imaginable to try and fix what had been done and still keep the project on track for the timeline. So that was one of those times, like I said to you earlier, where like I don't think we should wear all these hours working as a badge of honor too much, but that there are periods like that where you've got to just dig in, do the work, and just get on with it. So that was a pretty dark time. I think in terms of other dark times in the business for me, one is trying to deal with your personal problems when you're working. So there have been periods. So I founded the business the year I got sober. We went full time 2.5 years ago. So all through my son's diagnosis, through my diagnosis, which were hard periods at home, those things were going on at home, and I was having to deal with those and come into work and run a business every day. And I think the difference that people don't realize when you've got a business is you've got to be tough to do this, and you've got to really have a good reason to want to succeed. Because I'm not exaggerating. There are days I've come home from work and my wife has said to me, "How are you?" And I've burst into tears in the kitchen. I've just started crying because the pressure of I've had like 4 days in a row where every day a different client has beaten me up, and then a staff problem, and then a money problem, and the pressure of having all that on you and these people, everyone else's mortgages, and dealing with our kind of minds, it just breaks you. And like, it's not like a job where I can't just ring in sick tomorrow. Like right now I can because I got a bigger company. But back in those early years, if you don't go in the next day, you could sink the whole company, right?
You're fucked.
You're toast. So you're fucked, yeah. So you got to like, you're clinging on because you know, like for me, it was like, I knew you've got to just get to that point where those 2-3 year mark where it gets big enough like now where if I'm sick tomorrow, my company will survive. My team will run the show. It's different when I'm not here.
If you get sick for, let's just not say you're sick. If you want to take a 3 months vacation and not come to the business,
I could go for 3 months and the company would survive. You know, it might get damaged, but to be honest with you, because we're about 30, 35 people now, and I do a lot of my time in motivating people and stopping fights and aligning the culture to be nice. Seriously. So I know if I went for 3 months, do you know what would break if I went for 3 months? These guys would be fighting with each other. Yeah. People would be disagreeing. Culture would get affected. So it would survive, but it would survive, you know. And I could go take 2 weeks, 4 weeks, no problem. And in a couple of years, I could walk out forever, and it'll still be as great as it's ever been. I'm sure there'll be someone else there that can do that side, you know.
And how did you spot these great people? How did you spot these great people that work with you right now?
I've always tried to hire on energy, like on just how they fit with me. Like,
do you fire fast too? People?
Yeah, and we get faster all the time. Like, I hate firing slow. We used to fire really fast when I was in corporate, and then in this business, we clung on to a couple of people for too long, and it damaged us even more because we were scared. We didn't really understand, and now we've gone back the other way where we just look for, like, we try and interview a lot better now. So we put a lot more time into trying to make sure, does this person really fit? Do they really know what they're coming into, you know? But if they come in and they don't fit, we try and give them help straight away. Can we help you? Can you change? Can this work? But if I get a feeling inside, then I just say, no, this ain't going to work, guys. Go quick, you know? And that's definitely my advice. If someone doesn't fit, when you're building a business, really, you're trying to build a culture. If you look on my website, our culture videos and on LinkedIn, and you'll see a bunch of short videos about the culture here. We are all about culture. So we love our employees like a family. We're fun. We want to work here. We want to bring the best out of everybody we work with, and we want to do the amazing job for our clients. If somebody wants to come here and be lazy or be nasty to each other or not take criticism because we want the best out of them, they got to go. And that's I don't care if they're gonna leave with £1 million in business. They're gonna go.
How do you keep like this feedback thing with them? Like, how do you keep giving feedback? Is it like a conscious? Do you pour in like conscious effort every day to give feedback, or is it something and until you kind of spot something being repeated again and again, then you talk?
I used to do that, but I find because of the type, and I don't know if this is like my autism or just other people are the same. I'm demand avoidant, so I avoid demands, even if I place demands on myself. So sometimes I avoid things, even if I'm not scared of doing them, but my brain just takes a path of least resistance somewhere else.
No.
So like, and for a lot of, and by the way, a lot of successful people I speak to have been through this phase where you kind of almost become scared to give feedback because you haven't given feedback for so long that people aren't used to getting it. So you're worried that you're going to offend them. And for me, in my nature, I'm a people pleaser. So I've come from a history of always wanting to kind of be everyone's friend and please people and not upset people. So it's taken me a while to relearn the line I got to walk down where I can still be everyone's friend, but I've also got to be everyone's boss and mentor and give them the tools and the feedback to do the right thing. So now, the past few months especially, I've worked really hard the last few months on giving much more honest feedback, speaking my mind in a nice, calm manner. But also, I like to talk about micro corrections. So micro corrections is the concept of rather than waiting all the time for things to be big and then you've got to go correct people, just give them little corrections all day. And it's not in an overbearing way, in a positive way. So if I come in and like there's a mess on the floor or the desk is untidy, I'll be like, oh, hey, dude, don't forget we got to keep our desk tidy, you know? Don't forget we got to clear out the bin. Oh, they do a job and I'm like, dude, don't forget this isn't a good plan. This is messy. This is messy. And when you do it more often, everybody becomes used to it. So you get used to giving the feedback, but they get used to taking feedback. So they don't think, oh my God, I'm in trouble, or oh my God, I don't like taking this. They just get used to the fact that I'm going to come in and give them a little bit of feedback every day. And I also tell them to do the same to me. I want feedback. If I'm doing a bad job as a leader, then I want to know about it, as soon as possible, so I can be better for them too.
Okay.
What I would say, one more thing on feedback, just for people, this is a helpful business tip, is define your company values. So define your 5 to 8 or 5 to 10 values that your company operates by. So like for us, we have integrity, quality, be nice to each other, etc. So we've got our values. And when you give people feedback, rather than just say, you're doing a bad job, say
you're not respecting the value.
Exactly. So
Oh
you say
yeah,
to someone like, hey,
that's
you
a
say,
great
hey, look,
idea, by the way.
yeah, because it doesn't become about you and them then. It becomes about, hey, dude, do you remember we got these values on the wall and we all agree that these are great? What you've just done there, does that align to those values? And if they look at the values and they go, and I go, which ones did it align to? And they go, well, number 2 and number 4. And I'm like, you're fucking right, number 2 and number 4, and also number 6. So next time we do this, let's,
That is absolutely genius, man. It's a great thing.
It takes people, it makes it feel a lot less personal, because every time you just say, hey, dude,
True.
look, value number 3, value number 3, we're going to do, like, I'll give you an example, like, someone wants to take a shortcut with a client, and I say, well, hang on, what does value number 3 say? It says, we'll never do shortcuts for customers. So does that behavior align with that value? And if it doesn't, because what I need my company to do is to think like me when I'm not there, right? So if they've got my values on paper, whenever they've got to make a decision, they can look at that and say, well, would Phil do this? Does this align to that value? No, it doesn't. So I'm not going to do it if I can't get hold of him, And it gives you that. So yeah.
That's a great idea, by the way. You still have time?
Yeah, dude. I can do like 5-10 more minutes and
5-10. Oh man, we still have like 4 questions, but it's okay.
I'll give you 15 minutes then.
Okay. So, do you think in the beginning, the earliest, we've already like partially answered this question, but I mean, in the beginning of your entrepreneurial journey with Flyform, do you think it was really important to have people around you? I know you've told that your business partner was important with you, but do you think it was really important for you to have people around you to make it happen? Absolutely. And especially, do you think ADHD can ruin the initial phase? Having ADHD can ruin the initial phase of starting a business. Can be very, very tough for people who have ADHD to like.
Yeah, I think again it depends on how your ADHD is. So I think in terms of people around me, like without my business partner and without my wife at those points in my life, this business doesn't exist. So he plugged the gaps on days where, I guess for me it was a little bit different because I was getting sober as well and going through all these emotional challenges. There were days where I was just broken, and I would need to sleep all day or all night, whatever, where he was banging out the documents and, we would kind of feed off each other. So for me, that relationship was just beautiful. And I love my business partner like a brother, but we fitted together. And then I think, you need to be realistic in your life, because being an entrepreneur, although it's super sexy and popular these days, it does take over a lot of your life, Like for me with my children, I was blessed that my wife was an amazing mother, and she was happy to be the homemaker, and she wanted to raise the children and look after the home. And she said to me, just go do what you need to do, and I'll do this, and not every day, not just disappear for months, but like for a period of time with our first client, I had to work away like 3 to 4 days a week, every week for probably 6 to 8 months. So every week on a Sunday night or Monday morning, I would leave and I would come back on a Wednesday or Thursday. She would deal with the kids, all the housework. She was a brilliant mother for them. So again, you need to look at the part of your life and think, well, maybe you don't have kids, but maybe you've got a parent you look after, or maybe you've got, like you say, a weakness with documentation or something. So it's about looking at, okay, well, where are my gaps? And then think, well, how am I filling those gaps now? Or how can I fill those gaps, And it can be, worthwhile to go out and say in a group like ours and say to people, hey guys, I'm really artistic, but I'm no good at systems. So I'll give you a practical example. Tony Robbins talks about this on his Business Mastery course. Tony Robbins talks about this not from ADHD, but he talks about the 3 business profiles. So he talks about the artist, the manager, and the entrepreneur. So the artist is like a person they very much care about their craft. They like to make beautiful things, and that could be beautiful software products, or it could be like actual paintings, but they get juiced from doing a beautiful job, and that's where they get juiced. But they're no good at maybe throwing a bunch of money on the table and taking a big risk to be entrepreneurial. And maybe so those people need someone who can complement them. So they talk about the artist who does the creative side. You have the manager. The manager's job is kind of pulling the levers in the business. So systems, processes, structuring a company. And then the entrepreneur is like the risk taking. They got the dream of all these different markets and places they want to get, and they want to throw it all on the table. And basically what Tony says is most of us, you can be a blend of those three, but you'll probably have a primary one and a secondary.
Right. You look for the one that complements you.
Exactly. So if you're a really good artist, look for a manager, look for an entrepreneur, and team up and build together,
But at the same time, I think like we shouldn't like take your case as the only one case. Why? Because your business is also not a typical business. Like it's corporate, you get a client, it's something really hard to pull up. I don't think anyone can do it on his own, by the way. What your business is about, right?
Yeah.
It's not like
even having moral support, having someone there for moral support to look at each other on a horrible day and go, holy shit, dude, are we okay? Are we surviving? And someone to be there with you, that alone is a big deal,
So one question from this, do we have to start an entrepreneurial career after 28 or before? I mean, before if you are starting now.
I would start as soon as you can, man. Start as soon as you can. The lessons will be the same. I think today is a beautiful day to start businesses because we connected via the internet. We can do calls like this. Like when I was 21, I didn't know about ADHD. I didn't know I had it. I didn't have Tony Robbins. I didn't have Gary Vee. I didn't have the mentors I've got now, Andy Frisell and Ed Milet, to help me. So these days, I think if my biggest tip for anyone is self-awareness. Find your self-awareness quickly, because if you can start your business and be aware of maybe the things like you do that might damage you. So like if you are going to be a little bit reckless in a meeting, or maybe you're not going to make a deadline, but you can be aware of that and you can put things in place to stop that happening, you're going to be fine. But either way, definitely start, and just go for it, man.
Yeah, and I saw you, by the way, with Ed Milet. It was a mastermind. It was cool.
Yeah,
it was a mastermind or what? Or just a conference?
No, so I'm good friends with Ed. So Ed and Andy Frisell, his partner. So they run something called the Adhd Syndicate, which is a syndicate for high-level entrepreneurs. So you've got to apply to join. So there were 30,000 applicants this year, and like 40 people got through. And then you've got to pay a lot of money to be in there as well. So it's basically for people. So I spend 6 figures a year now on personal development. So the different groups I'm in, it's a real expensive hobby. So I meet those guys 5 times a year now. So I'm with those guys next month in Missouri, Andy and Ed. I'll be with them again in Canada in January, and then in Missouri in April. So and what that gives me access to is all the other people. So everyone in that group,
it's a great network.
7, 8, 9, 10. The networking is amazing. So I've literally met people there who are directly going to give me business, and they're also going to directly mentor me, and also all different industries. It's always find the circle, and you don't need to spend 6 figures for that. Start wherever your level is at. Like groups
I
like
want to spend 6 figures right now,
dude. It's a lovely place to get to that point,
Yeah, and I mean, even these interviews are great. I mean, meeting people like you, it's just like a great hack,
Yeah, exactly. And the group you put together is brilliant. So, my advice to people is get in the group, find the people, connect with people, reach out to me, reach out to other people. People will give you time. People are much nicer. And do you know what, dude? The successful people will give you more time than anyone. The successful people I ask for time from, most of them are nice people who want to help me.
It just gave us a lot of time.
Dude, it's the people in the middle. They kind of think they're special, and they get this attitude, and those people they're never going to get to the top,
Yeah.
So
yeah. They're too busy watching themselves and their ego.
Yeah, exactly.
I have 2 more questions. So
sure.
If you want to finish fast.
No. It's good.
Do you think this one is just something that I just thought about because you've brought it quite often? Do you think this pressure from the entrepreneurial thing, like the pressure you talked about, the money, worries about the money, etc. Do you think all of these things were the cause of like separation, or was it like just your personal
separation?
Behavior?
No, it was a real complex. But I will tell you, the ADHD had an impact on the relationship. Now, a lot of the stuff I did, like I was very, very difficult to live with, you know, the drinking, the reckless behaviors, getting in fights, being, you know, what kind of, that is not a positive relationship for my wife to be in, you know? So I think there was a lot of damage done over the years, not just by me. We were both kind of hot wires, but you know, a lot of my recklessness definitely had a massive impact. And
so not really the tough times in the business.
Not the business. No, man. She was like, there were definitely days where she was like, I haven't seen you for 2 weeks, and like you're shouting at me and you're tired, and I'm like, I know, but I've got to finish this, you know, because we were in crisis. But deep down, she got it because we were on a mission together. We wanted to, you know, we wanted to make it. We wanted to have a nice level of income for our kids, for our family, for our future, you know.
And do you think like with fixing your ADHD right now, you can, for example, have a healthy relation, like fixing your habits and your mental state,
Yeah,
etc.
I get it.
Do you think it will improve even like the relationship side, or you just started after
Dude, definitely. No, definitely, man. I think, like,
for me, it helped a lot, to be honest. Just
dude,
telling you,
it helped massively, massively, dude. So I think if I could have done this years ago, I could have saved this relationship, you know. And to be honest, the relationship could still be saved. We still talk. We still kind of, right now we live separate. We take in some space, and it could go either way, you know. But
yeah,
but I do know that I'm definitely a different person to who I was a few years ago, and I think what we're seeing with the separation is actually a delayed reaction to what happened years ago, not now. You know, there was so much damage done back then that it was very hard to deal with this new guy that doesn't do those things, and that caused a lot of tension and problems.
exactly.
In there. Yeah.
I was impossible to deal with. In my case,
dude,
I was really
100%.
impossible to deal with.
Yeah.
But like the last
definitely.
year, I've changed massively and worked on myself a lot. And I'm what I call like right now in a relationship, I feel like I'm perfect, to be honest.
Nice.
But I worked on myself. It's a lot of work. But
it's a lot of work, a lot of self-awareness, and a lot of
exactly. It's a lot of self-awareness, and I have like a file called ideas to meditate on. And
exactly.
And I have a lot of ideas to meditate on about life and about how I fit in life. And this was the thing that helped with my self-awareness a lot, and that made me improve with in my relationship. So the last question is for yourself or ADHD-doers in general. What do you think? Who are CEOs? What do you think their best role could be inside the company?
So if they're in someone else's company or in their own company?
In their own company.
Well, I don't know. I think as long as you're the owner, then everything else is fine. Because for me, like, I definitely I listened to an ADHD podcast. I think it was the Adhd magazine podcast, and they were talking about the doctor on there. Yeah, and the doctor on there kind of said. And this was really interesting to me to hear. He said, for people with ADHD, if something doesn't interest you, like it actually doesn't, there is nothing you can do to make yourself do that task. Like it is literally like asking someone to fly without a plane. And it was only when he said that I realized. So for me right now, my role is hugely varied. So like today, I've had meetings on what have I done today? So I came in, I had, you know, a task on finance to do. Then I was in a marketing meeting. Then I had an interview with someone. Then I had a meeting with my co-founder. Then we were talking about we're moving offices. And then I'm in this interview. And then tomorrow I want to train to London. I'm going to meet 3 different people, do 6 different jobs. And to be honest, I can kind of do, I mean, I've got to do what's right for the company, but I can also do what I want. Like, so if you put me back into a normal job tomorrow where I'm doing the same thing every day, I will get extremely bored and depressed straight away, and the whole company will go down, you know. So I think keeping a role where you can be free to do different things is key, man.
So do you think it's a good rule of thumb to, if you you feel like you're not going to do it and you don't like to do it, do you think it's a really good rule of thumb to just like bring the one that could do it? Because in the long term, if you're forced to do it each time, it's going to ruin everything, right?
Man. Definitely.
Awesome. So one question from the chat, and how much did you fail before being a successful entrepreneur? And that's it.
So a lot, and I was fortunate, I guess, that like it won't look like I failed a lot to people outside, because really this was my first main real business, and it just happened to explode and be really good. But I failed a hell of a lot in corporate world. So I failed multiple promotions, multiple careers, which for me, they were me trying to grow into,
Yeah, after corporate world, you learn a lot about how to start it. You can see it happening. So, I mean, it's like
I fail now every day, dude. I fail now every day. I still fail now. This year we hit a major dude. This year we hit a major financial crisis. We had I had to fire my CFO. We had some major problems in our books, and it scared the shit out of us. And it was really rough for a couple of months this year, and it taught us a lot of lessons. Still, it was a huge failure, and it sat with me at the end of the day. You know, so we fail every day. You've got to just keep like. It's cliche now, but you never fail if you keep going. You know, just keep going. Like Andy Frazella, Ed's friend and business partner, Andy, who runs a $500 million supplement company. He's a great guy. Talks about this pyramid you're on, and when you start in business, you're on the bottom layer of this pyramid, and there's like 100 people, and you're fighting to kind of succeed and work. And as you get up the next level to level 9, like basically like 10 of those people drop off because they give up. They think, oh fuck, I can't do this, and this is too tough. And then you get to like level 8, and another 10 drop off, and then you get to level 7. And basically, you keep going up the pyramid. You think at the top of the pyramid is the hardest. It's actually at the bottom. When you're at the bottom, you don't know what you're doing. You don't have any tools or systems. You can't afford to pay for help. And there's so much competition because there's 100 of you. Like,
and you
right
can't
now,
even define failure. You can't even define failure. You don't know what failure because you
exactly.
You don't know what.
So just cling on. So if you just cling on and keep going, like right now, I don't know which level I'm at, but let's pretend I'm at level 5. Like half my competition are dead now. 50 people are gone. There's 50 on the way up. And the higher I get, the more, you know, and the higher you get as well, you know, like tomorrow, if I don't have any critical meetings, I can just take a day off if I want. I can decide to work at home, or I can decide to do a different project, you know, like I said earlier, it's a fine line to keep the discipline to do what needs to be done. But also if I choose to take a self-care day, or I just want to do whatever, I want to be with my kids, I can do that. And for me, those demands on my life, I like to have that level of freedom. It definitely helps me manage my mindset and my motivation and all my other things as well, you know, because ultimately I'm here because I want to be here, you know. I want to see this place thrive, and I want to give people good jobs, and I want to give back to the world, and that's what keeps me going.
Yeah, so that's about it.
Cool.
I thank you very much, Philip, for this. By the way, when you start answering questions, when you stop abruptly. You always stop me, like I'm like, well, okay, this is
because
awkward.
I talk so much, so I give loads, like, and then inside I'm thinking, holy shit, I'm still going, I better stop.
I know this feeling.
So just hit the brakes.
Yeah, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for setting up your group. I think it's brilliant.
And man,
you're doing a great thing.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Be sure to choose your T-shirt because I'm gonna be sending you one.
And I'll get you some photos, and we'll. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, so be sure to choose it. Tell me which one do you like, and be sure to work out with it too.
I will do, and I'll send you some pics, bro.
Awesome. Thank you very much, man. Bye bye.
Take care, man. I'll see you soon.
Bye.